You're listening to the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, the only podcast for active, athletic, and adventurous women and those who aspire to be. We've got your back as you navigate the ups and the downs of motherhood, midlife, and menopause. I'm your host, Allison Hylett, here to remind you that female isn't fragile. I'm a strength, conditioning, and nutrition coach who's trained hundreds of women to achieve their goals to get fit, lift heavy, go the distance, and feel like a badass in every area of their lives. Each week, you'll hear from me and some of our awesome guests as we educate and empower you during each stage of your fitness journey, whether you're already crushing it, fighting to get back out there, or starting from day one. So friends, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. We here at FBG have been noticing a disturbing trend lately. After many years of rising body neutrality and body positivity messaging, we're now seeing an uptick of diet culture and its damaging effects on body image and well-being for women. Today, we're diving straight into the deep end, talking about what exactly is diet culture and why it needs to die. With me today on the show to have this raw, unfiltered, and important conversation is FBG Alex, who is the editorial assistant on the FBG blog, but is also an amazing mindset and life coach. Quick heads up though, we talk about some personal, sensitive, and potentially emotionally triggering topics like disordered eating patterns. So skip this episode if that's not something you want to hear. Also, it's worth noting up front that what we share on this episode are our personal experiences. So these are anecdotes, not evidence. No one here is or claims to be an authority or an expert on diet culture. We're just two women from two different backgrounds, raised in two different countries, sharing how we've experienced diet culture in our own lives and how we've begun to push back against it. So buckle up, friends. Here we go. All right, welcome, FBG Alex. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Those of us who are running FBG now have started to see this trend in thin is in again. And there's a lot of this resurgence we're seeing in diet culture. There's lots of different factors for why people are starting to predict the return of diet culture. So I asked Alex to come here today to talk through this with me. We're from different generations. We've grown up in different countries. We've had very different experiences throughout our lives. It's obvious to me through our conversations that we have both been deeply impacted by diet culture and the messaging around that. But just to give everybody a little bit of context, diet culture is a term that a lot of people throw around, not always with definition around it. As I started to do the research for this episode to put definition around diet culture, what I realized is that there really isn't one definition. So I went through the different definitions that were being used by the researchers that were researching the psychosocial impacts of diet culture in our society. And I pulled from their definitions, what are the common threads? What are the overlapping pieces? And here is what I've come up with. Diet culture is a system of beliefs and expectations that values and idealizes thinness. This system equates having a thin body with being healthy, and consequently assumes those in larger bodies are unhealthy. It also puts the pursuit of thinness on a moral pedestal and equates the achievement and maintenance of low body weight as a symbol of status. So there's a lot there to unpack. But what I would say, the threads that we're seeing there is this assumption that if you're thin, you are healthy. And this assumption that if you are not thin, if you are in a larger body, you're unhealthy. And the pursuit of thinness is something that you are praised for and is applauded and is seen as morally superior. So a little more context, what are the roots of diet culture? From what I see in the resources that I looked through for the research for this episode was in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, American Protestants started to publicly equate deprivation with health and health with morality. So if you were not tempted by indulgences, you were morally superior. But then there's also a racist component to the history of this belief that thinness and food restriction equal goodness. Africans tended to have larger bodies, so they were viewed as morally inferior. Now, these ideas are really being perpetuated by the capitalist system that we live in. Everyone is selling something. A lot of those things that they're selling are designed to make larger bodies thinner, and it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry. So there's a lot of financial reasons people have for wanting to make us perpetually pursue thinness and to put that pursuit on pedestal. So the conversation that I want to have is to dive deeper into our own personal experiences with diet culture. What kind of experiences have you had, Alex, where diet culture has had some sort of impact on you?
Well, this is a loaded question because I'm sure we've all been impacted in many different ways through many different eras of our life. But I specifically remember starting to really pay attention to diet culture probably when I was between like the sixth and eighth grade. And Tumblr was a very big social platform. I also grew up in the thigh gap era. That was around the same time. So I caught myself into the wee hours of the morning scrolling on Tumblr and personally feeling inferior because I didn't look like these Tumblr girls. I didn't have that thigh gap. And that was the first initial seed that ended up not blooming in a nice way, but blooming into something so much more impactful than I ever expected through my teenage years and as I entered my adult years as well.
I think all generations have experienced this. For me, when I was younger, it was 17 magazine. And in that time period, it wasn't as well known or talked about that these are all airbrushed images. That wasn't a conversation that was being had. It was just like, this is reality. These are pictures of people. Yeah. And these people are successful and they are good and they are healthy and they are happy. And they were always thin. And then growing up in the 90s and being in my 20s in the 2000s, all the women's health and fitness magazines were about thinner thighs and flat stomach. Women's health and fitness was about thinness. It was not about health. It was not about fitness. Nothing that they promoted in those magazines was going to make you fitter or necessarily healthier because they have all the 1,200 calorie diet for thinner thighs. And the implication there was that if you ate less, and you did the right exercises that you would get healthier. And that's how they were selling magazines.
Yeah. And for me, as I was getting older and starting to notice those things, noticing it in my mom and her group, I was having that as an influence as she was experiencing that.
Yeah.
But as you said, like it truly is living under the guise of being healthy. From that point, things started to snowball and I ended up being chronically underfueled. I had so many unhealthy things happen. I had fainted a few times, things that were just not okay. But to me, sin was healthy. Sin was ideal. And in hindsight, we can see how detrimental that is.
And what was really unfortunate about all of it was how praised and validated we were by having so much self-control. You're so disciplined. Like, no, I have an eating disorder. Well, right. But these behaviors, and that's the influence of diet culture, is that these very maladaptive behaviors are perceived as being virtuous and healthy. And one of my experiences, many experiences that I could share, one of them in particular was with orthorexia. So I was a competitive athlete. I had very little body fat on my body. I only ate quote unquote clean foods. I didn't eat quote unquote chemicals and processed foods. I had this high and mighty self-righteousness about me that was really infused by diet culture. And what it ended up leading to was, as an athlete who needs about 2,600 to 3,200 calories a day, depending on where I am in my training schedule, because I was an ultra runner, I was a CrossFit athlete. Yeah. They require a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
And because I was limiting myself to only quote unquote clean, chemical free, non-processed foods, there was no physical way that I could eat enough food to hit those calories, because everything in it, when you eat that way, you're getting a lot of fiber, you're getting a lot of things that fill you up, and you physically can't eat any more food, but you still need more calories.
Yeah.
So people would look at what I was doing. I'm working out 6 days a week. I'm competing. I'm saying no to all of the cookies and the chocolate, and they were just raising the shit out of me. They were validating my ego. They were, oh, you're so healthy. And in the meantime, my mental health was deteriorating. I was suffering with low energy availability, ultimately ended up with red S, which is relative energy deficiency in sport, what they used to call the female athlete triad. I had dysregulated hormones. I was having stress fractures over and over again. And everybody's like, I don't know how this is happening. You're so healthy. Oh my God. And it's like, no, my obsession with health is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And it is costing me more than I even know at this point in time.
Yep.
And like I said, it went on so long because of how many people were patting me on the back for my discipline and my health. And on the inside, I was completely coming apart.
Yeah. From the mental aspect, I look at that as when you feel so much pressure to keep up that image and keep up that way of living, even if you did eat something that was outside of that really strict regime you had, the shame, the mental spiral after that probably would have been so much bigger. Like it almost feels like you're shackled into it a little bit, especially as an athlete and being praised and all of those things. So there's layers.
Yeah, that lifestyle becomes a cage. And it goes on because the body that you create with that lifestyle can become a cage. And that's really what I experienced. In order to become healthier, I needed to gain body fat. I had to actually fuel myself appropriately. The only reason I was that thin was because I was starving. And that's the real danger of diet culture. As I would go to my doctors after that, as I'm going through the process of healing and recovering from red S, which takes many years to recover from because the damage is affecting all systems of the body.
Yeah.
And as I was going through that process, every time I'd go to the doctor and I'd step on the scale and I'd get weighed, I would gain weight and I would gain body fat and my sizes were going up. And the doctors would start to question, like, what's going on here? Why are you gaining weight? And I feel so glad that I was at a place where I could stand up for myself in those situations and say, you're not weighing me anymore. I am recovering from disordered eating patterns.
Yep.
And as part of that recovery, I need to gain weight. And you telling me that just because I'm gaining weight, I'm getting unhealthier. That was the implication. I'm gaining weight, so therefore I'm becoming unhealthier. But in reality, I was getting healthier.
Wow. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah. I have other experiences from earlier in my life. I wrote an essay about when I was trying to enlist in the Army in college and I was rejected because my BMI was too high, even though I was a college rugby player. And my dad was a lumberjack, like a literal lumberjack, and he's built like one. And I have his same muscular structure. I've always just been very muscly. And I've gone through my life always being on the heavier side for 5'2". But that was one of those experiences where it was very clear to me that I'm being measured, like thinness is health. And for me, it was not healthy for me to be that thin. And then even before that, one of the other essays that I've written was about the use of laxatives because they give you that feeling of like emptiness in your stomach. That's
Yeah.
really that hollow feeling of your belly whenever you're trying to restrict.
Big weird, like it's a physical feeling, but it's a psychological
Yes.
feeling. Like it's the addiction to the feeling of being empty. And like
Yes.
saying that, so interesting that you say that because I like vividly remember like being at a sleepover with one of my friends and we ate snacks. We were doing this shit together and we took a chocolate laxative. And I remember the feeling of laying in the bed and like craving that empty feeling. And I don't think I've ever verbalized it until you just said it. It's like that brought me back.
Yeah. It's like you feel bad about yourself when your belly is full.
Yeah.
It's
Like
wrong. Like I'm not being healthy. I'm not restricting enough. I'm indulging too much. And you start to equate that feeling of emptiness with like power and control over
yes. I think
situation, right?
control,
Yeah.
that is like the key of
Yeah.
everything.
If you look back at the history of diet culture, it's this root of deprivation, of controlling yourself and not having needs and not having desires and not having wants that would make you morally inferior. And I wrote an article about that because ultimately my laxative use ended because my hip broke at age 30.
Wow.
And everybody talks about like lifting and running are really good for bone density. And I was lifting and I was running, but I was also using laxatives. And when my hip broke, everybody's like, I don't know how this could have happened to somebody so healthy and so thin. I was the smallest I'd ever been at that point in my adult life. And I knew, I remember that night, you just turned 30 and your hip is fractured. And everybody was like, how could this have happened to somebody so healthy? Because I'm not healthy.
Yeah.
I'm just thin.
Yeah.
Not the same thing. And again, it's the assumption
Yes.
that thinner is better. And that is so corrosive. One of the things I'm seeing a resurgence of is the labeling of certain foods as good or bad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was hoping we were done with. People are afraid of chemicals and they're afraid of processed foods, but there's a spectrum. There's some chemicals you shouldn't put in your body, like cyanide. Maybe don't drink that, right? But broccoli is chemicals. Water is chemicals. So like the chemophobia is becoming a bigger thing now. And the shaming around us. I was doing a face to camera reel and it was drinking a diet ginger ale. And I got comments about, "Wait, you drink soda? You drink diet soda? Aren't you afraid of the chemicals?" I'm like, "No, I like ginger ale." I don't think about it, partially because I went through this time period in my life where I was so obsessed with all of that, that I
Yeah,
was not able to properly fuel my body, and I paid a
totally.
big price for it.
And anytime you villainize anything, like anything in moderation that is actually okay, the simple thought and energy you're putting behind something, if you do choose to consume it, that's where it's ended. Any potential damage is going to 10x at that point because you have just labeled this as bad, and that makes you bad in your mind. And the second that you can, just as you said, you let yourself drink the ginger ale, let yourself in quotations, you enjoy the ginger ale because you've made the conscious choice to enjoy it.
Do I live on ginger ale? No.
Exactly.
These things are not going to have an impact on my health. I don't worry because it's not my whole life. It's still within the context of everything else that I eat. I have plenty of nutritious food in my life. I didn't swing the pendulum from one side to the other. And that's where I think the influence of social media and the messaging in and of itself is really, you need to pick a side. You need to be on one side or the other. Either you have no chemicals and you're a good person. There's morality assigned to that. To the other side, that is, I eat all the chemicals all the time. Like, you eat chemicals, you're unhealthy. Like, there's so much gray area in
Yeah.
between there. The middle path is where most of us need to be. And
Yeah.
social media is so much about the clickbait of the pendulum
Totally. The
swinging, right?
extremes, the hooks that draw you in and make you want to know more about what you've done wrong or what's the new thing to do. And like the gray area in all of life, like that's where we find balance and that's where we find duality and like where we live with duality, not like the pendulum swing. Anytime I've ever swung from one side to the other in the pendulum in anything in my life, it's for worked out.
Yeah. And it's not sustainable. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to be all over the place, right? Like,
Going back and forth.
yeah, yeah. And I just did an episode with Charlotte Markey about
Mhm.
body image, where she was talking about the behaviors. There are behaviors that we all do that are generally accepted to be healthy, can very quickly become maladaptive when they are involving risk or they are involving pressure. And so when you're feeling that your identity is at risk because people see you as this healthy, thin person, it makes those behaviors very much maladaptive, and they start to work against you, start to erode your mental health and your physical health. The pressure to just keep doing these maladaptive behaviors, even though you know that they are very unhealthy for you.
Totally. Even though you're feeling the mental challenges that are going with it, the way that you're thinking, the way that your emotions are, and all the other things, but you still hold up the image. I don't coach a lot of people on this. I've had some clients who have experienced these things that I've helped them work through, but obviously you're the one that's dealing with the food and the nutrition. But as far as just being pressured by society or being praised by society for certain things in general, like overworking and all of those things, and it's the same, they fall into the same umbrella. The second that you're being praised for something that is maladaptive, you want to continue it. And that's what I notice a lot in my clients, whether it be in diet culture or anything else in their lives. And that's, I think, what makes it so difficult to get out of those things because the second you make a decision that goes against what society is telling you, what you learned growing up, or so on and so forth, you have this feeling of I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm the black sheep, I'm naughty, like all of these things where you feel like you're going to get in trouble a little bit or like it's a rebellion. But in reality, it's just you having actual control over your choices and over how you feel rather than this false sense of control that you are manipulating your food and health and nutrition choices to try to feel that. And what I've noticed, even in myself, is that we use food and thinness and body as the vehicle of control, but there's actually usually a situation underlying that we don't have a lot of control over. And so we grasp for control at anything else in our life that we possibly can. For me, I know it was a personal situation I experienced when I was younger, and I didn't put those two together until earlier this year. Like, it's something that if you're willing to peel back the layers and go into the onion a little bit deeper, it's like that control that you're trying to use food and thinness for, there's another root underneath there that will actually help you understand why you're making those choices.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly, through my therapy, have uncovered some of the things too. And a lot of it goes back to, sadly, a lot of it goes back to the environments we were raised in. Those are really important early indicators for the types of beliefs and the types of behaviors that we will engage in. And for me, it was growing up in a place where I had to earn love. I had a parent who only when you did the right things were you given any affection, right? And so there was a big motivation there for me to constantly try to outdo myself. And because I could not control how my parent perceived me, there were other places I was grasping for some control. And the myth of diet culture is that thinness is a panacea. It is the remedy for everything, right? You will lose weight. You will be happy. You will get a new boyfriend. You will get promoted. Your life will improve if you just get thinner. It's not the assumption that thinner is better, thinner is healthier. And I think it's such a common thread that we see where people will go to this because that is the prevailing marketing message that you can fix it all. You just have to lose weight. So we go after our body as a way to do that. And losing weight may not make you individually healthier. For some people, absolutely. There are some people that I work with where losing a little bit of body fat might make them healthier. We're not trying to say that having a lot of body fat is always healthy. That's not where we're going. What we're saying is that just losing weight does not mean you're going to get healthier. Because when you lose weight, there are a number of things that you can lose to lose weight on the scale. You can lose bone density. You can lose muscle mass. You can lose body, right? My goal for people is always to improve their body composition. I want them to keep their muscle mass. I want them to keep their bone density. I don't want them to just pursue weight loss as a means for health. Because if you lose bone density and you lose muscle mass, you're not getting healthier. You're actually digging the hole a little bit deeper because muscle is important for blood sugar regulation and function, and bone density is important for, everything. This pursuit of weight loss can get in the way of health because they don't want to do the exercises that will make them function better and help them manage pain, because those don't burn enough calories. What they want to do is all of these grueling, sweaty, intense calorie burning exercises. I mean, sure, cardiovascular stuff is going to make your heart healthier, but that's one aspect of your health. Right? And the way that they're choosing their exercise is based on what they believe will cause them to lose weight, because in their minds, that is what's healthier, because that's what their doctors and society are telling them. Totally. So now we're not even doing the types of exercises you should be doing for health. We're doing exercises because of the calorie burn, and that is not making you healthier in a lot of situations. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you. I wanted to press pause on this episode for a second to talk about your fitness goals. Those sweet dreams of being more active and feeling athletic and confident and doing epic, adventurous shit. Or maybe you just feel like you're getting older, because we're all getting older. And you, like me, never want to give up on carrying all the groceries into the house in one shot, or picking up that heavy Amazon box without worrying that you're going to throw your back out. I know you're busy. You're probably listening to this episode while multitasking. Oh yeah, I'm on to you. And the biggest thing that's stopping you from getting strong and fit is knowing how to use your workout time most effectively. Like exactly which exercises are worth your time, when to do them, and the number of sets and reps to get to your goals. You probably also tried other fitness apps and programs out there, only to feel like they weren't right for your needs. You want a program that has it all: strength, power, cardio, mobility, and recovery, all built right in without spending your whole life in the gym. And you want experienced coaches around to answer your questions, and a community at your back to help you stay motivated and inspired. Look, I've been coaching women for a long time now, and the truth is that you don't need another fad diet or complicated, time-consuming workout routine to support you as you age. You just need to train smarter with simple, progressive workouts and a plan that's designed for your body and your life, whether you're navigating motherhood, midlife, or menopause. And if this sounds like exactly what you've been missing, I invite you to join Stronger 365, a progressive strength, power, and conditioning training membership for women like you who are ready to stop winging it and take their training to the next level with more structure and support. And the best part? This program has 3 different options, so you can choose your own fitness adventure based on your goals, how much time you have to train, and what equipment you have, whether you've got access to a full gym or, like me, work out at home. And it's run by me, Allison Heilig, and my awesome team at Miles to Go Athletics. Head over to the show notes for all the details and to join our membership community. And as an FBG, your first 2 weeks are on me. And now, let's get back to the episode.
I work with a lot of people who experience pain. and helping them return to activity and return to their lives without pain is a big part of what I do. So a lot of times my clients will come to me and say that they've been to their doctor, their orthopedist, and they're just told, you need to lose weight. And the implication there is that when you lose weight, you won't have pain. And that is not true. I have plenty of clients who are thin and they have pain. So again, the assumption that weight loss, that thinness is a panacea, it will fix everything. You will be healthy and happy.
I've experienced clients who won't go after a totally unrelated goal, like something like wanting to buy a house or something like that, totally unrelated, that through our coaching together and going deeper and deeper and deeper, the thing that was holding them back was that they wanted to lose weight first.
Ooh.
At this point in my life, I couldn't possibly see how any of those things are connected and how, again, this like false narrative that this one thing, losing weight, being thin, will literally fix everything.
And I wonder how much of that is coming from this belief that you can't be happy and have what you want in life unless you are thin.
Yeah, it's very possible. I believe that. I wasn't trying to buy a house at that time. I was just trying to get through high school, but I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that I would be more popular and that more people would talk to me and that all of these completely unrelated things. And I got probably dangerously thin and I was not happy.
And that's the shame and the myth. All the times that I was very thin and I outwardly looked healthy were the least happiest times.
Yeah,
Totally. Like I was struggling with my mental health at that time, and it was never enough. Even when I was at my smallest, it was not enough. It was a bottomless pit. There was no way I was ever going to win.
no, it's a constant moving target and it's a battle. It's really a battle with yourself, and it's not a battle that you're going to win.
No, you're not even on your own team. The way that diet culture is spoon fed to us, we know it's in the media. We know it's in social media. We know all of that. But now seeing it coming from weight loss drugs, like, and this drug will fix everything because you will be thin. We know from the literature that if you stop taking it, there's a very good chance you're going to gain the weight back. Once again, now you have to keep taking this medication that can have some pretty severe side effects in the dosages that it's given for weight loss versus diabetes. And so there are risks associated with it. I can't predict the future, but this is what I see playing out because of my own experience. You lose weight, you get praised for it. Everybody validates your experience. But if you're having side effects where you can't afford $1,300 a month, you're stuck because you know that if you stop taking that medication, there's a very good chance you're going to gain the weight back. And now you've just created another cage. That body, that medication, you can't walk away from it. It's become maladapt. Yes. And you feel stuck. It's not, in my mind, any different than what those of us who have had disordered eating patterns have gone through, where it's like, I can't not starve myself or take the laxatives, or I can't start eating enough food to fuel my body because that means I'm going to gain weight. It really quickly becomes a really deep inner struggle when you know it's not good for you. But
you can't stop. I feel like now that there is weight loss drug anywhere and everywhere, I feel like that is the modern day version of what we experienced. It's just wearing a different mask. And I'm sure what we experienced is obviously still happening, but this feels not only more prevalent, but it also feels more acceptable, socially acceptable. Whereas for me, I didn't tell anybody.
No,
I told not a soul.
Yeah.
Not a soul.
That was a big part of it, was like, you didn't tell people how you got there.
Because it's wrapped in shame. It comes back to that, and dealing with the shame and getting the support you need, whether it's from a coach, a fitness coach, a health coach, a life coach, whatever it is, a family member, a friend, a support system that can help you unweave those patterns, feel seen and heard in this experience, and actually be able to start making different choices.
Yeah. And as I look at what I've done in my own life to push back against diet culture and what I've done in my career to push back against diet culture when working with my clients, is that one of the biggest things for me was to get a coach. I mean, I went to therapy. Absolutely. That's a big part of it. Coaches are not there to help you heal your trauma. They're not qualified to do it. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not my scope of practice. You need to see a therapist. But in terms of behavior change moving forward, where do we go from here? Bringing a coach on who could help me stay grounded because I still have these emotions. I still have bad body image days. I still have this desire to diet, to get thinner because I think it's going to change something about my life. That has not gone away
Yeah.
because I don't live in a vacuum. But what having a coach has done is that when I have those feelings and I say them to somebody else, it gets me out of the shame piece because shame doesn't survive in the light. And it helps me put a container around that emotion. And then my coach can say, yes, these are valid human emotions, but we're not going to take action on that.
Yeah.
We're not going to punish your body because you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
You did too many cookies yesterday. You're not going to do 6 workouts. The emotions are still there. And I think that's one of the misconceptions is at some point we just heal and it doesn't affect us. But it does. It's there every single day.
Yeah.
What I did was I got support to keep me from acting on those emotional impulses, to ground me back in reality of like, no, we have a plan.
Totally. Absolutely.
Don't go there.
I experienced the same thing, that little voice or the way you catch yourself as you walk by the mirror, and that voice still exists. And some days it's much louder than others. Sometimes I don't think about it for 2 weeks on end, but it still exists. And I think from my experiences doing mindset coaching, it's like a lot of the fears or the beliefs or whatever that we try to get rid of, quote unquote, we don't get rid of them. We just learn how to dialogue with them. We learn how to have a conversation and let that voice know that it's not in control. It can say what it wants. And there's this little side of me that wants to say that it's okay, but I have now not only the control, because I don't think it has to be all about that, but like I have the will, even beyond willpower, right? Willpower feels forceful to me. Will feels like true desire, commitment, and compassion for myself to not let that thought become an action. Exactly as you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, it becomes like having a more balanced perspective. Not every thought you have is true. Not every thought you have is helpful. Your brain's job is to generate thoughts. And not all of them are true and not all of them are helpful.
Yep.
We tend to take them at face value. We tend to act.
Yep.
So part of going to therapy, part of having a coach there with me on the day-to-day, beyond just that weekly therapy appointment, was me verbalizing these emotions so that they were a little bit more tangible.
Yeah.
And then I could call them what they were. Oh, that's just me having a crap body image day.
Yep.
That's okay. I'm not going to make any big life choices right now. Those impulses are still there. I'm still a human person navigating diet culture just like everybody else. I just am not as responsive. My perspective is wider. I can see that there are other thoughts there that are more true and more helpful. Like, no, I value my health. That is a true and helpful thought that is also there alongside of these other thoughts. And I just get better at seeing more of those, the nuance and the complexity of the thoughts.
Yep.
So I think having support, because this is really difficult to navigate on your own. I don't think I would have been able to get this far without having people in my corner to help me navigate it so that I wasn't just acting emotionally all the time.
Yep.
And I think curating your digital and physical environment is also a really important thing. Just kind of curating who you're spending your time around, shutting down conversations about your body in general. There was a period of time where I would go into doctor's offices and I refused to let them weigh me. And they would be like, we have to write something down. I'm like, then just write down any number. I don't care. Yeah. So like, there's just little things like that where advocating for yourself, holding those boundaries, shutting down those conversations, making sure that these things are as much as you can control, not actively a part of your digital and physical environment.
Yep. Absolutely. Because I think the brain's natural instinct is the comparison. Like, oh, I'm not doing that, or I should be doing that. And sometimes it's a subconscious thought. Sometimes it's not something that's in the forefront of our mind that we are thinking on purpose. So the awareness of your thought patterns, like as you're scrolling through social media or your digital or your physical environment, like, what are you thinking? Like, tune into what's happening in your brain rather than just letting it be on autopilot.
Yeah. And if you're having trouble tapping into thoughts, which I know can be challenging for some people, tuning into the feeling.
Yes.
And then looking for the thoughts.
Yep.
Like, how do you feel as you're like, how do I feel? Scroll. I feel anxious. Okay. Why do you feel anxious? What thoughts are happening in your head right now that are leading to that anxiety? Those can be a good gateway. Totally. Recognizing how the things that are around you are actively affecting you. Other things, more moments of positive body awareness. We have this negativity bias in our brains, and that's a protective mechanism.
Yep.
We tend to fixate on the things that are not going well, that feel threatening. So it's really easy for us to remember our bad body image days. that there are some days where you're probably pretty body neutral
Yeah.
or even body positive. I know every time I lift and I hit a PR, I love my body.
Yeah.
Like I have no problem saying it. Like my body is so strong and
Yeah.
so capable. And just letting yourself bask in those positive experiences of embodiment and recognizing them and recognizing what are these activities that I'm doing that are leading me to feel good or neutral about my body. And then actively including many of them, more of them in your life.
Totally. I completely agree with that.
Journaling about how you feel about your body every day can be good too, on noticing positive moments of body awareness, not always just fixating on the negatives. Writing things down on a daily basis can help you recognize the variability. Because what I think is interesting about noticing daily is that there are some days where I'm body neutral and some days where I'm body positive, and literally nothing about my body has changed
No.
from the days when I hated my body.
Nope.
Like they were like 3 days apart.
There's
Like nothing.
yeah. Perspective, it's a comment. It's the way you try to piece of clothing on. It's the time of the month. Like,
Yep.
something that happened before.
It's always something. But like recognizing that how you feel about your body fluctuates from day to day for all sorts of reasons, and none of them have anything to do with how your body's changed
Yeah.
from day to day can be really helpful.
I think that's also a good thing to point out, that just recognizing that other things in our life, our perspective changes from day to day as well. So why do we think that it's any different with our body? Some days with our work, we're like, oh, this is amazing. And then the next day we're like, oh, this sucks. Like,
Burn it down.
yeah, it happens in all areas of our life. So I think just having that reminder that, like, oh yeah, this is just like what the brain does. And it doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean that I've done something wrong or that something drastic has changed. It's just like a perception shifted day. And
Yeah.
it's okay. Tomorrow,
And I think
better.
what you said about perception shift and what I say about the bad body image day, tying it back to your thinking and a component of being a human who has a brain that fluctuates. It's like having different colored lenses.
Yes.
When you look through your sunglasses, everything is a different color than when you look through your clear lenses. So when you think about the way that you're thinking and your perspective and your mood even as looking through different colored glasses. Maybe they're rose colored glasses, maybe they're shit colored glasses, right? Depending on the day. But if you start to separate yourself from those things, I am not those thoughts. I am not those moods. I am not that perspective. I'm deeper than that. So then you start to see this is only a small piece of the way that I see the world, the way that I see myself. It's temporary, it's fleeting, it's fluctuating. And that for me was a really important part of healing from it and recognizing that when I have those days, this is not me. This
Right.
is one of those days.
Yep.
This is my brain braining. And tomorrow it could be completely different.
Yep. Totally. The brain brains very often, and it's designed, yes, to think thoughts and also to keep you safe. And so if the brain, senses, or the nervous system senses insecurity or this or that, it's going to send you a thought to be like, change this immediately. Or it perceives that as danger, literal
Yep.
danger. And we know that eating too many cookies last night is not dangerous. You're going to be
No.
okay.
This
And
is
so reminding yourself that, like, yes, my brain is having thoughts, but also my brain and my nervous system are literally designed to do this.
Yes. To point out the things that I should be worried about.
Yeah. That it thinks that I should be worried or
And then your fight or flight response is get me out of this immediately,
Yeah.
which is stop eating or go do a big workout. Those are very typical responses when you're being triggered in that way.
totally.
And just recognizing and separating yourself from those thoughts and not taking action on them right away, not letting them drive the bus off the cliff
Yep.
is because they're always going to be in the bus with you.
Mhm.
But you don't need to give them the wheel to drive you off the cliff.
Yep.
And that's where I settled in my healing process, where I'm at currently as a 44-year-old woman, is they're going to be in here with me, but they're not driving.
Totally. And I love that. It's a great analogy. It's a great visual that we can have, knowing that you're still in the driver's seat. Everything else is in the bus with you. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And stop expecting them to go away completely.
Yeah.
If you think that's what healing looks like, you're not going to heal.
No,
It's
another unrealistic expectation.
Yeah. And if we can really settle into this place of I have thoughts, but they don't control me and my actions, you become more capable of keeping calm and collected when you are being triggered. It's tough, but that myth that on the other side of weight loss for all people always is health and happiness and success and everything you've ever dreamed of is a lie.
Yeah. From two people who have gotten there.
Oh, yeah. All the way there. And then like, nope, still not happy. Nope, still hate myself.
It's like digging a hole, jumping in, and then having to find a way to climb back out and fill the hole.
Yeah. And you have this reality to face that part of the healing process probably is going to involve your body changing in ways that diet culture would say are unhealthy.
Yep.
Even in the pursuit of greater health,
Yep.
you outwardly become unhealthier, which is difficult because it's hard enough to be a healthy person in this world. And to have those odds stacked against you, or to have the threat of pursuing health actually means that you need to be in a larger body than you have been.
Yep.
Can make it so much more difficult to get out of that hole that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else that you want to add?
This was a fantastic conversation. I think we gave some amazing takeaways to anyone listening to this who has been through something similar or is currently going through something similar. And I think this is great because we've raised a lot of awareness that, like, you're not alone. These sensations that you're feeling, the thoughts that you're having, like this, it's unfortunate that many of us go through it, but you're definitely not the only person going through it. And I wish that I had somebody telling me that while I was in the thick of it.
It's that shame piece where we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We think we're the only ones with this issue, and it becomes like, I'm the problem. I'm the broken one.
Yep.
And no, the system that we exist in is the problem.
Yep.
It has designed that none of us can win, that we will all keep spending money in the perpetual pursuit of feeling good enough in our own skin. And it's not designed for us to have a good endpoint.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be something else on the other side of that endpoint, because that's how a lot of industries make their money.
Yep.
We feel insecure. We feel broken. They'll quote unquote fix it. Right. And then it's this perpetual pursuit of a finish line we'll never, ever, 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 ever reach because the system was rigged against us.
Yep.
So, yeah, I hope that gives people some hope, and even in some cases, maybe just gives them the language to talk about this, and recognizing that you're not alone, and having these conversations and calling it out when you see it and recognizing it for what it is. This is diet culture.
Yeah.
This is a system of beliefs that have been developed. This is not truth. This is not necessarily reality or what your reality has to be, that you can see it for what it is, recognize it for what it is. And like we have done in our lives is just march the other way.
No matter how rebellious or scary it feels, and with the right support and working through that initial shame, it's possible to come out on the other side and actually feel like you can have these types of conversations saying, like, that's where I was.
And perhaps you can help someone else navigate that along the way and be the same person to them, that support system for them that is reminding them that you don't have to act on these thoughts. I have them too. We're in this together, but let's not tear ourselves down because of it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I know you'll be back, so that makes me happy. I love having conversations with you. We'll link some information about Alex in the show notes as well. She does a lot of coaching on confidence and what else?
Confidence, just general life stuff. I also love doing behavior change, habit change, recognizing patterns, identity work, all that good nervous system work. All the good stuff.
So if you are somebody listening to this episode and you're like, I don't know where to go for support, I got Alex might be a really good place to go. And if you're looking for support on the health and fitness side, you can always reach out to me, someone on my team may be able to help you, or I can give you a referral for that. But do reach out for support if you're not sure where to go. One of the great things about the internet is that you can work with people who are not close by. So there's lots of options available to you, but do not feel like you need to navigate this on your own. I did not get where I am on my own. I'm sure, Alex, there were many people that helped you along the way and supported you as well. So thank you for being here and for reinforcing that with me.
Thank you for having this discussion with me. It was awesome.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Fit Bottom Girls podcast. But don't worry, we're dropping new episodes every Thursday. In the meantime, head over to the show notes for all the links from today's episode, or go to fitbottomedgirls.com/podcast to catch up on past episodes. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next week.